out and they start strong, take an early lead, and they basically have the lead the entire game. And just to say this, before we spin it forward, that was an incredible Game 7. It was an outstanding Game 7 on Saturday night. And look, last night we had the Canadiens. Lightning, we'll do that later in the show, was an epic Game 7 in the National Hockey League. The other Game 7s yesterday were terrible in the NBA. Like, here's the Orlando Magic pooping all over themselves for 48 minutes against the Pistons. And then we had a fun first half last night in Raptors-Cavs before Cleveland turned on the afterburners. Jared Allen with an incredible third quarter, leaving the Raptors in the dust. We'll get to the Cavs and the Pistons coming up in a little bit. But as far as the game itself goes, that was an awesome spectacle. A tremendous basketball game, ripe with drama from start to finish with the Sixers and the Celtics. Joel Embiid was magnificent in this game. And you could tell, and you don't have to be like someone like an astute observer to tell, that he was loving it. Woofing at Jaylen Brown, the hand gestures. I know, and I'll talk more about this in a bit, Knicks fans hate him. I like him. I think he's massively entertaining, and I think he is a tremendous player. Was he dirty a couple years ago with Mitchell Robinson? Yes. But I have to admit, I do find him pretty entertaining and pretty funny. VJ Edgecombe grew up in this series. He's magnificent. How about Tyrese Maxey down the stretch? This is like in a video game when you play like NBA 2K, and Tyrese Maxey's speed rating is 99. 99! Just blows past. He's playing at a different speed from everybody else. Blowing past people on the way to the basket. And Paul George, is he overpaid? Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. The most expensive role player in the history of role players, and he's damn good in this role for the Philadelphia 76ers. And now what you have, and this is not the first time I've said this. It's not the second time I've said it. This isn't the 10th time I've used this exact analogy this season to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. Because this has always been possible. And look, I thought the Celtics were... I'm not trying to do revisionist history here, right? But this has always been possible with the 76ers. And if you think back to a couple months ago, we had our friend, the whale capper Drew Dinsick from NBC Sports on the show, one of the most respected NBA betting minds out there. And we did an NBA champions draft. I took the Sixers as one of my picks. Because you can see the vision for the 76ers, right? You can see it. But in order for it to happen, it's like cashing a 5-leg parlay. So when we look at the parlay, right? Leg 1, Joel Embiid's healthy. We've cashed that so far, if you like the Sixers. Made it through one series, and obviously didn't begin the series, but closed the series. Looks like he's going to play tonight in Game 1, probable for the 76ers. So Joel Embiid, leg 1. Tyrese Maxey healthy. That's leg 2. He looks unbelievable. Leg 3, Paul George not suspended and looking like his head's in the game. You check mark next to that one. Leg 4, VJ Edgecombe. Hashtag making the leap. You're cashing it. He was incredible in that series against the Celtics. And I know he had a couple duds, but they won the series and he was great in the games that they won. Come on. Now, the 5th leg is the toughest one. And if you're a bettor, you know, when you got a big parlay, right? And you got a bunch of legs you got to cash. You're scratching and clawing. You're fighting. You're scraping to get to that finish line. And the last leg is always the toughest. Now, you need all of those things to keep happening in order to cash. Because, if you construct a scenario, and it's possible that it happens, it's not impossible. Embiid's healthy. Maxey's healthy. Paul George stays dialed in. Edgecombe keeps playing at this level. All of that keeps happening. The Sixers can go to the NBA Finals. I'm an optimistic Knicks fan, but I'm not delusional enough to think that this is a walkover series. I think the Knicks will win. But I'm not delusional enough to think the Knicks are just going to steamroll the 76ers here. The reason, though, why I like the Knicks in this series is if you like Philly, and it can happen, it can absolutely happen, you need all of these things to keep happening. And the big one is the first one. Can the big guy stay healthy? History literally says no. Not figuratively. It literally says it's not going to happen. That doesn't mean it can't. Things are what they are until they're not. It could happen. But if you're a betting man or betting woman, and you see that the Sixers are a pretty big dog in the series, Knicks about minus 260 at our show sponsor BetMGM, and you think, yeah, Sixers can absolutely beat them. They can, if they're full strength. And you could say the same thing about the Knicks, but the Knicks don't have the injury risk that the Sixers do. Fair or unfair? So am I a little nervous as a Knicks fan going into tonight? Of course. I'm always nervous. I've never seen my team win a championship. The Knicks, at least, win a championship. Of course I'm nervous. The Knicks absolutely need to win this series. And I expect them to win this series. We'll talk about them in a moment. But just last note on the Sixers for now, and then we'll break the game down more a little bit towards the end of the show. This Joel Embiid stuff, talking about how Sixers fans need to not sell their tickets to Knicks fans. And how when these two teams played in the first round of the playoffs a couple years ago, which was like right after my daughter was born, like we're in the range of like when my daughter was born, basically, a couple years ago. My daughter turns 2, by the way, on Wednesday. Early happy birthday to my daughter, Colette. That it sounded like Madison Square Garden in Philadelphia, because Knicks fans absolutely took over. I will take this opportunity, and I think Philly sports fans are great, and I mean that sincerely. Like, do you all understand how pathetic that is? Like you're some curtain-jerking jabroni, small market, that you have to like beg your fans to not sell tickets to Knicks fans so your arena doesn't sound like Madison Square Garden. Like, what is that? That like Embiid and like the Sixers have to like beg, like what's like Philly? What's happening here, guys? How is this possible? You're a great sports town. I'm not insinuating otherwise. You're passionate. You're diehards. And I think that, Philly and New York sports fans don't really like it. I think we're basically two sides of the same coin. How do you let this happen? Like, do better, guys. Come, if the shoe were on the other foot, you would say the same thing to New York Knicks fans. Credit, though, to the Sixers for getting it done, coming back from 3-1 down, exercising the demons in green and white, and bouncing the Boston Celtics from the postseason. You bet on this Monday. Nick Kostos here with you on Westwood One Sports. All right. Let's talk about my Knicks. The New York Knicks fall behind in the first round series against, and I know I was gone for a while, right? I'm going to give you a quick thought on the Hawks series, right? Fall behind 2-1. Back-to-back 1-point losses to Atlanta. CJ McCollum's torturing the Knicks for a couple games. And I got to tell you, I'm being real with you, right? I'm always honest with you, right? I'm fearing the worst. I expected the Knicks to come back and win the series. But you know what? That's always that feeling. It's always sitting, right? It's always sitting there like when you're watching a movie, right? And you're expecting something insidious to happen. You're watching a TV show and you're expecting a heel turn, right? The music starts to get a little more intense and the camera shots start to cut a little quicker and your heart starts to race and you start thinking, oh my God, what's about to happen here? Is something bad about to happen? And yeah, I'm lying to you if I'm telling you that I wasn't thinking something bad was about to happen. But in the end, the New York Knicks struck me as like a really, 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 really hungover guy who's like gets absolutely smashed after they win game 1 and is just going through the motions, hungover as you know what through game 2 and game 3. And then after game 3, someone dumped a bucket of ice cold water over their head and they woke up and said, you know what? No more. Let's pull out the belt and let's go to town. And let me tell you something. I had a great vacation with my family. Incredible time in Palm Beach. By the pool. By the beach. My daughter loving it. Delicious meals. Just loved it. Best part of my vacation. Watching the Knicks take a 60-point lead against the Hawks in Game 6 and destroying that team. Dyson Daniels, you want to be a tough guy and try and put, like the Fujiwara armbar on Mitchell Robinson when you're down by 50. Great job, Atlanta. Showing all that. Where was that fight when the Knicks are up 50 points on that ass? Yeah, that's right. And now, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful to the Sixers. I just told you there's a path for it to happen, for the Sixers to upset the Knicks. I'll tell you what, though. No excuse. 0.0 excuse for the New York Knicks not to go to the NBA Finals. They have to go to the NBA Finals. Now, if like Jalen Brunson gets hurt, or like Cat gets hurt, obviously all bets are up. But you could say that, what if SGA gets hurt? What if Wemby gets hurt? Anthony Edwards is hurt for the Timberwolves. Luka Doncic, per Brian Windhorst of ESPN, isn't close to returning for the Lakers. We see this happen a lot, right? But pending health, zero excuse, zero for the Knicks not to make the NBA Finals. And yes, I'm a Knicks fan, and I'm honest about that. And yes, if you're watching the show, over my shoulder, you can see I've got New York Knicks paraphernalia here on my setup. I love them. I'm dying to see them win a championship. Hell, I'm dying to see them get back to the NBA Finals. So yes, I acknowledge that I want it to happen. But I don't lie to you on the show. I shoot you straight. There is no reason for them to not make it. None. None. And I don't care if the Sixers, if the parlay cashes and you get all of these things happening for a 7-game series, the Knicks should still win. They're better. They have home court. Period. Period. And I'll tell you what, Detroit, Cleveland on the other side, I'm not, and maybe I should be, I'm being real though. I think the Knicks beat either of those teams in a 7-game series. I'll take it a step further. I think that Knicks-Sixers is the Eastern Conference Final. Because if the Sixers win this series, the thought is that the parlay's cashed, right? And Embiid was healthy, and Maxey was healthy, and Edgecombe keeps playing well, and Paul George keeps his head on straight. That's what needs to happen for the Sixers to win this series. And if that happens, and they keep it up, they will beat either Detroit or Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Final. This is the Eastern Conference Final. The Knicks better win this series, and I'm not just saying that to like appease me, New York Knicks fan. No. They need to win this series because it's all out there in front of them. No excuses. And if they don't, you might think this is dramatic to say or a hot take. It's not. The Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau after last year because they needed a coach that they felt, and I felt this also, to get them over the hump. Here's the hump. It's time to get over it. And if they can't, and they lose to Philly, or they beat Philly and lose to Detroit or Cleveland, and everybody's healthy, and you can't make an excuse. You can't say, oh, well, Jalen Brunson didn't play, or Karl Anthony Towns didn't play, or OG Anunoby was out. Whatever it is. Mike Brown's got to go. And I want Giannis Antetokounmpo in blue and orange next year. They don't get it done now. I don't think it's ever happening for this core.